guys, my name is Rose.
My name is Janice.
And today we are going to rethink feminism. To begin with, how many of you noticed our greeting? Hey guys. Well, those of you who are not guys, please raise your hand. Hello and welcome to you too.
So you see, so much of what we say is often an extension of tradition and habit. Today we want to answer the two questions. One, is sexism still a thing? And two, what is our role in all of this?
So our first part, we're going to talk about a modern view on feminism and how everyday language often so oppresses women. We will also be talking about how we ourselves can often be our own enemy in explaining why sexism still exists. So what is feminism? In short, feminism is a movement for gender equality, for the equality of opportunity, for the end of discrimination and oppression based on gender. More importantly, feminism is not just a women's movement. Whether you are a guy or even someone who is not strongly moved by ethics or morals, just think about it this way. If we don't solve these issues at hand, we could be limiting the potential of up to half of our world's brain power. Now, that's a pretty horrendous use of efficiency if you ask me.
So we're often taught about historical figures like Emmeline Pankhurst, Elizabeth Cady Stanton. We're told that all of our humanity has gone a long way in moving towards women's suffrage and women's rights and equality, and we're taught to rest assured that humanity is traveling in the right direction. I've also asked many of my guy friends whether or not they're feminists, and their most common response was, well, no, because, well, all the girls I know are equal to me. Okay, that is true to a certain extent. However, especially in our TS community, but what happens is that if we are under the mindset that the problem has already been solved, then we are often oblivious to all the different reincarnations and forms of sexism that do still exist in our world today.
So whether or not this information that we receive is from the school, our community, or the media, there is definitely a lack of urgency and awareness on the issue of sexism. Perhaps we can blame extrinsic factors that we can't control, such as what we learn at school or what shows up on our Facebook feed. As easy as it is for us to justify our lack of awareness on such important issues, such as sexism, it is time for us to realize and fix the real issue, ourselves. So, some of you may be asking yourselves, well, I consider myself a feminist, so how could I possibly be a part of the problem? Typically, I would agree with that. But over the past year, I have been attentive and I have learned and experienced numerous ways in which everyone, whether it's unconscious or subtly, can participate in this dangerous normalization of sexism in our modern world. So the first idea of how we contribute and interact with society's sexism has been broken down into two parts. First is what we intake and receive from the media, and the second is how our everyday language can dangerously appropriate sexism and rape culture in our society. So the media and the press is a big one, as they offer us the insight on the current news and events going on around our world. And even when the sexism that is in such coverage is not outright and obvious, it has the ability to shape our views on the modern world. So I think a great example of such sexist coverage is in the election of 2016. So the media played a major role in the outcome of this year's election. Hillary Clinton, a qualified, experienced candidate, had the opportunity of becoming the first female president in the United States. However, I don't think that her greatest opponent was Donald Trump. I think that it was the media. Jon Stewart from the U.S. News highlights in his article, The Sexist Press, that despite the press and media's claims to report for voters, they often twist and perhaps exaggerate their news in order to boost their views and for their favor of conflict. So he brings up the example of Hillary Clinton's coughing during the election. And he talks about how her coughing was interpreted by both the media and Donald Trump as signals to show that she was not fit to be a president. And then he brings up the example of Bill Clinton's own election in 1992 and in 1996, where he suffered similar allergies and coughings. Yet he was never attacked on whether this meant that he was capable or not for being president. So he says that, he underlines that when a man shows signs of wear, it means that he is presidential. When a woman shows signs of wear, it means that something is wrong. It brings up questions about her fitness. Furthermore, during this election, in comparison to Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton was disproportionately judged and attacked on her looks, likability, and even the fact that she did not smile enough. Just take a look at this clip.
She's got to smile. She should smile and try to convey a sense of warmth.
Whether she can show some warmth, whether she can smile a little bit.
Humiliate him with a smile on her face.
See him with a smile on your face. What's that smile?
And these pictures basically show how Donald Trump looked during the campaign. But in contrast, he was never called out for not smiling enough. So this double standard that this female presidential candidate was put up to, in addition to other very influential female figures, has made it very difficult for females to succeed in our modern world. Which is why it's really important to be aware of what we're intaking from the media. As shown in this year's election, it has the ability to change our mindsets and our views on presidential candidates. So next I would like to talk about language in our modern society and how how at times, even when there are sexist connotations and implications to the words that we use, we often allow ourselves to become oblivious to it. So let's start with some more common examples. You know the saying, do it like a man, or when you're at a haunted house and someone says, oh, you scream like a girl. The fact that do it like a man is often associated with tasks that may require strength, competence, or bravery, indicate that women do not share these similar qualities and that it is always better to do something like a man. Furthermore, the fact that doing something like a girl is used as an insult is quite offensive and makes it seem as if being a woman is something to be ashamed about. So, on a more personal note, sometime last semester, as I was gaming with my friends, I noticed that something was up. Now, don't get me wrong, these guys are really kind and respectful to women, but they use this word in such a confident and comfortable manner that I didn't notice that at first. What they did was, when their character in the video game would get killed by an enemy or several enemies, they would say something like, oh my god, I just got raped so hard. That was so intense. And yes, these kind-hearted chill bros of mine use rape to describe their character getting killed in a video game. Of course, after talking to them about it, it was clear that they didn't have any intentions of using it in an offensive way. However, the reality is, it is truly inappropriate to use such sensitive topics in such a casual and perhaps even jokingly manner. So, as you can see, these implications of sexism can be found everywhere in our daily lives. So, it's especially important for us now to change our behavior today, right here and right now.
Okay, so perhaps by this point you've realized that, yes, sexism is an issue that still exists and that it deserves attention. But now the second part of the talk, I'll be talking about internal limitation and how, while society may oppress us from the outside, often our biggest enemy can actually be ourselves. More often than not, women are subject to this kind of internal limitation more than men are. So there was a recent study done by a professor at the University of California, Dr. Winky Bladehorn, and she analyzed over 8 years, over 985,000 men and women from all across the world, 48 countries. And she was trying to figure out whether or not there would be a gap between self-confidence between men and women. And so here is our results from her study. So the blue nations indicate nations where there is a significant gap between self-esteem in men and women, and the pink nations indicate areas where this problem is slightly better, but of course still not completely equal. So these results show two significant trends. Number one, that women all across the world are consistently less confident than men. And number two, which is very surprising result, that in more industrialized nations like the United States, like Australia, lots of countries in Europe, this self-confidence gap is even more pronounced than in less developed nations such as India and China. So now there are two theories to explain this. First of all, the reason to explain why women are less confident overall could be attributed to biological factors. So back in hunter-gatherer societies, when women were in charge of taking care of the home, where men went out to hunt, maybe women's brains were programmed to take less risks, so that in the future their offspring would survive because they would be here protecting the home. And maybe today, when women are not taking as many risks, is a remnant of that kind of biological evolution. But that doesn't explain the trend where, well, women are less confident in industrialized nations as we see today. So the second theory to explain this is that in more developed nations, women are more likely to compare themselves to men because they are playing on a more equal playing field. So when a woman, for instance, in the United States, is working equally hard as her male counterpart, and the truth is that she only earns 80 cents for everything that man is doing when he is earning only $1, this can be a huge blow to this woman's self-esteem. Then when she looks at the bosses and, let's say, the Fortune 500 CEOs of 2016, and she sees that only 4.2% of those bosses are women, well, there's such a lack of role models and representation in these industries that women feel like, well, men are maybe better than them, and that maybe that's why I'm getting treated like this. So, Sheryl Sandberg, who is Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, has written a book called Lean In, and she describes this kind of phenomenon. So she talks about when women look at their own achievements, their own success, they're more likely to feel like a fraud. When women judge themselves, they're more likely to underestimate their abilities, while the opposite is true for men. So here I quote a passage from Sanders' book. She says that a survey of several thousand potential political candidates revealed that despite having comparable credentials, the men were more likely, well, 60% more likely, to rank themselves as very qualified to run for political office compared to women. Okay, let's assume that a woman does succeed, though. What comes next is that society often tells her that her success can be attributed to external factors, things like, oh, maybe she got lucky, or she had help from other people, and not so much that she is capable of herself. The media plays a huge role in highlighting this double standard. The New York Times wrote an article on Sheryl Sandberg and said that Sheryl Sandberg was only granted the position of Facebook's Chief Operating Officer because she got lucky. Heck, the media even wrote that Hillary Clinton, when she was leading in the polls, was only leading because she got lucky that her opponent was Donald Trump and he was saying all of those things, not because of her own ability. So when a woman sees success, and when she's successful, but society tells her that her success is only because of external factors and not because she is capable, when she fails, she's more likely to think that it's because she was never good enough in the first place. She's more likely to think that she is incapable. Even if she succeeds, then she will only see herself as a fraud. When that happens, women will limit themselves in so many ways. They won't go for opportunities that they would actually be perfect for because they're scared of taking that risk because they feel that they're incapable. And this will limit world progress in so many different ways. Well, I myself have also heard this voice of internal limitation. Last November, we held IAS's Model United Nations here at Taipei American School. And positions were open, applications were open for positions for conference organizers and leaders. And I knew that I was definitely interested, but I hesitated. Because, well, I was thinking, I was only a junior, and these posts were traditionally held by seniors, so therefore, I probably shouldn't do that. I was thinking that, well, I had to lead a room of 200 people, and most of them were older than me, so why would I be able to do that? And I was thinking about all the people that I knew who are equally qualified as me, and who are even better than me. And I just thought that, well, maybe I'm not in the position to do that. But after talking to some of my mentors, I gained some more self-confidence, and in the end decided to apply. I got appointed as Secretary General of the conference, and it ended up being one of the most amazing and rewarding opportunities that I've ever been a part of. So thinking back, I realized that all of those doubts were actually just a fabrication of my mind, because I had limited myself when all of these doubts were I was actually capable of everything that I had thought I wasn't. So after reading Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, I realized that what she said was so true, that, well, what if I had actually been my biggest obstacle? So sure, for me, it took some external reminders to remind me of my self-worth. But today, I hope that can be a reminder to every single one of you. Even if you're not a woman, right? In the spirit of feminism, this message applies to every single one of you because feminism is about granting more opportunities for people, regardless of your gender. It's about empowering yourself to not limit yourself externally or internally because you are capable for more than you think.
So, no matter what gender you are, or if you're someone who occasionally lets slip a few derogatory comments, or someone who holds yourself back because you give yourself excuse after excuse for your inabilities, today is the day to change your ways. Today is the day to control, alt, delete.
So first, we need to control our impulsive words. We need to stop joking about rape. We need to think twice before we say anything. We also need to control our irrational fears that we are incompetent frauds, because if you ask anybody out there, they will tell you that that's not the case.
Next, we need to alter our perspective. We need to see feminism as a movement that we are all a part of, that we are all responsible for. And we need to see ourselves as worthy and valuable, every single one of us.
And finally, we need to delete our prior misconceptions. Feminism is not something that is buried in history, not something that is only relevant to that girl in Liberia who doesn't have an education. Feminism is not something that is irrelevant to our community. It is something that's outside and inside for all of us. And that is why today we urge all of you to control,
Alt,
and delete.
to finally unlock our full potential.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.